Admiral Deho stood at the tall window of the command center and watched the last ships leave his world. The bright lights from their engines grew smaller and smaller until they disappeared into the black space above Carathan Prime. His people were running away, and he could not blame them. Death was coming to their planet, and there was nowhere else to go. The Devourers had been hunting his people for 300 years. These metal monsters ate everything in their path. They turned beautiful planets into empty rocks. They changed living beings into more of themselves. The Karathi had fought them with their best weapons and smartest minds, but it was never enough. The machines always came back stronger. Deho turned away from the window and looked at the big screen that showed their planet from space. Red dots covered the surface like a disease. Each dot was a place where the Devourers had landed and started eating. In 2 days, maybe less, there would be nothing left of his home world. "Sir, the last transport ship just entered jump space," said Tae-jun from his desk full of blinking lights and screens. The young officer's voice was steady, but Deho could see the fear in his eyes. Tae-jun had worked at this station for 5 years, talking to ships and keeping everyone connected. Now there was almost no one left to talk to. So Min walked over to them, her tablet showing numbers and charts that told a story no one wanted to hear. She was the smartest person Deho knew. If anyone could find a way to stop the Devourers, it would be her. But even smart people could not work miracles. "How long do we have?" Deho asked, though he already knew the answer would be bad. 47 hours and 32 minutes, So Min said. She did not look up from her tablet. "The shield generators are failing faster than we thought. When they go down, the Devourers will pour through our defenses like water through broken glass." Deho nodded. He had seen this happen to other worlds. First, the shields would flicker and die. Then the machines would swarm down from their ships in the sky. They would take apart everything they touched, learning and growing with each bite. Buildings, trees, people, it made no difference to them. They consumed it all. "What about the other species? Any word from the council?" Deho asked, even though he knew this answer too. Tae-jun pressed some buttons and shook his head. "The Zenthari Federation pulled back their ships this morning. They said they could not risk losing more vessels. The Aquilan Republic sent a message saying they were sorry, but they had to protect their own worlds. The Crystalline Collective just stopped answering our calls. The Galactic Council had been their hope for so long, all the great species working together to fight the Devourer threat. The Zenthari, with their fast ships and energy weapons. The Aquilans, with their powerful shields and smart computers. The Crystallines, with their ability to see the future and plan perfect attacks. For 200 years, they had fought side by side with the Karathi. But fear changes everything. When the Devourers grew too strong and too smart, the alliance began to break. Species started thinking about saving themselves instead of saving everyone. The Karathi, who had given the most ships and lost the most people, found themselves alone when they needed help the most. "Show me the final message from the council," Deho said. Tae-jun touched his screen, and a voice filled the room. It spoke in the cold, official way that politicians used when they wanted to sound important. "After careful consideration of all available data, the Galactic Council has determined that Carathan Prime cannot be saved with current resources. All member species are advised to redirect their forces to defensive positions around their home systems. Carathan Prime is now classified as a lost world. No further assistance will be provided. End of transmission." The words hung in the air, like poison. 300 years of friendship and cooperation ended with a few cold sentences. Deho felt anger burn in his chest, but he pushed it down. Anger would not save his world. "How many people are still on the planet?" he asked. So-min checked her tablet again. "About 2 million. Most are in the deep shelters or the underground cities. They have food and water for maybe 6 months, but that won't matter if the Devourers reach them. 2 million souls waiting in the dark for death to find them. Some were his friends, some were his family, all of them were his responsibility. He had been the one to tell them they could hold the planet. He had been the one to say the Alliance would save them. Now he was the one who had to watch them die. "Sir," Taejun said quietly, "there's something else. I'm getting strange signals from the outer system. Ships, but not ours, and not from any species I know." Daiho walked over to look at Taejun's screens. There were indeed ships out there, small dots moving slowly toward their world. But these ships looked different from anything in the galactic database. They were not sleek and smooth like Zenthari vessels. They were not crystal and light like Aquilan craft. They looked rough and simple, like they had been built by hand instead of by machines. "How many ships?" Daiho asked. "Maybe 30 or 40. They're small, using some kind of old fusion drive, very slow compared to our ships." Taejun frowned at his readings. "Sir, these ships are older than anything we've seen in centuries. The technology looks like something from the early space age." So Min came over to look at the data. Her eyes grew wide as she studied the numbers. "This doesn't make sense. These ships should not be able to travel between star systems. The engines are too weak, the hulls too thin. How did they get here? More importantly," Daiho said, "why are they coming here? Everyone else is running away, but these unknown ships are flying straight toward our doomed world." The three of them stared at the screens, watching the mysterious ships grow slowly closer. In a galaxy that had given up on them, someone was coming to Corathan Prime. Daiho did not know if they were friends or enemies, but for the first time, in months, he felt something that was not despair. Outside the window, the red dots on his planet continued to spread, and the countdown to extinction continued. But somewhere in the darkness of space, strange ships carried unknown intentions toward his dying world. Change was coming, though he could not yet imagine what form it would take. The strange ships moved closer to Corathan Prime, and Taejun worked hard to understand their signals. The communications were basic, using old radio waves instead of the quantum channels that most species preferred. It was like listening to someone talk through a tube made of metal. "I'm getting something," Taejun said, adjusting the controls on his station. Static filled the room, then cleared to reveal a voice speaking in heavily accented galactic standard. "This is Captain Jiwoo, of the Terran vessel Endurance, requesting permission to approach Corathan Prime. We received your distress calls and have come to help." Daiho blinked in surprise. "Terran? From the Sol system?" So Min looked confused. "But that system is listed as primitive in the galactic database. They barely have space travel. What could they possibly do to help us?" Earth was known to the galaxy, but only barely. The third planet of a small yellow star, home to a species that had just started exploring their own solar system. Most advanced civilizations ignored them completely. Their technology was thousands of years behind, their society was divided into competing groups, and they showed no sign of being ready for galactic politics. "Answer them," Daiho ordered. He was curious about why these beings had come so far to reach a doomed world. Taejun opened a channel. "Terran vessel Endurance, this is Corathan Prime Defense Command. We appreciate your offer, but you should know that this planet will fall to the Devourers in less than 2 days. We strongly advise you to turn back before you are also destroyed." Reply came quickly. "We understand the danger, Defense Command. That's exactly why we're here. No one should face extinction alone. We request permission to enter your system and coordinate with your forces." So Min shook her head. "This makes no sense. Their ships are too small to carry enough firepower to matter. Their weapons are kinetic projectiles and simple lasers. What do they think they can accomplish?" Daiho studied the approaching ships on the main screen. They were indeed small and crude-looking. But there was something about them that caught his attention. While most galactic ships were smooth and perfect, these human vessels looked like they had been built for war. They had thick armor plates, multiple weapon ports, and sensor arrays that stuck out in all directions. They looked rough and ready, like tools made by someone who knew how to use them. Let them approach, Deho decided. If they want to die with us, that's their choice. As the human ships entered the inner system, the Devourers noticed them too. Several scout machines broke away from the main swarm and moved to intercept the newcomers. Deho watched the screens, expecting to see the humans destroyed in seconds. The Devourers were fast and deadly, and their weapons could tear apart much stronger ships than these. But something strange happened. The Devourer scouts flew right, past the human ships, as if they could not see them. They circled the area, their sensors scanning everywhere, but they could not find the targets that were right in front of them. "How is that possible?" Somin gasped, staring at the display. "The Devourers can detect a single molecule of metal from 1,000 kilometers away. How are they missing entire ships?" Taejun was equally amazed. "The human ships aren't even using stealth fields. Their hulls are made of plain steel and ceramic. There's no advanced technology at all." On the screen, the confused Devourer scouts finally gave up their search and returned to the main swarm. The human ships continued toward Korathan Prime, completely undetected by the galaxy's most dangerous enemy. "Captain Ji-Woo," Deho called over the communications link. "We just witnessed something remarkable. The Devourers could not detect your ships. How did you accomplish this?" The human captain's voice carried a note of pride mixed with weariness. "It took us 20 years to figure out, Admiral. We've been studying the Devourers since they first appeared in this part of the galaxy. We learned that their sensors are designed to detect the energy signatures and materials used by advanced civilizations. But our ships are built with old-fashioned materials and simple technology. To them, we're invisible." Somin grabbed Deho's arm, excitement lighting up her face. "Don't you see what this means? If the Devourers can't detect them, the humans might actually be able to help us." A new voice came over the communications channel, speaking with the careful pronunciation of someone who had learned Galactic Standard from books instead of conversation. "Defense Command. This is Dr. Hyun-Soo aboard the research vessel Discovery. We have been monitoring your planet's situation for several weeks. We believe we may have developed countermeasures that could be effective against the Devourer threat." "What kind of countermeasures?" Deho asked. "Our strategy is based on exploiting the Devourer's reliance on networked intelligence," Dr. Hyun-Soo explained. "While your people tried to fight them with superior technology, we took a different approach. We learned to think like they do, then figured out how to confuse them." The human ships were close enough now that Deho could see them clearly on the visual screens. There were 43 vessels in total, ranging from small fighters to larger ships that might have been cargo haulers. They all shared the same rough, practical design. No elegant curves or artistic touches, just functional machines built by people who cared more about getting the job done than looking impressive. "Admiral," called a new voice from the communications channel. This one was crisp and military, belonging to someone used to giving orders. "This is Commander In-ha of the Terran Defense Force. Request permission to dock and share tactical data with your command staff." Deho looked at Somin and Taejun. The scientist was excited, eager to learn about this impossible stealth technology. The communications officer looked hopeful for the first time in months. Both of them were waiting for his decision. The rational part of his mind said this was foolish. What could a handful of primitive ships do against an enemy that had defeated the combined might of the galaxy? But another part of him, the part that remembered why he had become a soldier in the first place, whispered that sometimes help came from unexpected places. "Permission granted, Commander In-ha. Dock at Base 7. Dr. Hyun-Soo, we would be honored to hear your theories about Devourer countermeasures." As he spoke, Daeho realized that something had changed in the command center. The air of hopeless despair was gone, replaced by curiosity and possibility. Even if these humans could not save them, they had already given them something precious: the knowledge that they were not alone. "Taejun, prepare a full briefing for our guests," Daeho ordered. "Somin, I want you to analyze their ships and learn everything you can about their stealth capabilities. If there's any chance at all that they can help us, we need to understand how." "Yes, sir," both officers replied, already moving to carry out their orders. Daeho turned back to the window and looked out at his dying world. The red dots were still spreading and time was still running out. But now there were new ships in Ai, his sky, carrying people who had traveled across the galaxy not for profit or politics, but simply because it was the right thing to do. Perhaps that made all the difference. Captain Jiwoo entered the Korathi command center with slow, careful steps. She was shorter than most Korathi, with dark hair tied back and clothes that looked practical rather than fancy. Her eyes moved constantly, taking in everything around, her with the attention of someone who had learned to notice details that others might miss. Behind her came Dr. Hyun-soo, a thin man carrying a bag full of electronic devices and data tablets. He looked excited, like a child visiting a new playground. Commander In-ha followed last, her military bearing obvious in the way she held herself straight and alert. All three humans wore simple blue uniforms without any decorations or symbols of rank. Daeho stepped forward to greet them. "Welcome to Korathan Prime, Captain Jiwoo. I must admit, we did not expect help from your people." Jiwoo smiled, an expression that seemed both sad and determined. "We didn't expect to be the only ones coming, Admiral. We thought other species would send help too. When we learned that everyone had abandoned you, we knew we had to try even harder." "But why?" Somin asked, genuine confusion in her voice. "Your people barely know us. You have nothing to gain by being here and everything to lose. It makes no logical sense." Dr. Hyun-soo looked up from the tablet he was reading. "Logic isn't everything, Coordinator Somin. Sometimes you do things because they feel right, even when the math says you shouldn't. We humans call it conscience." Commander In-ha moved to the tactical display and studied the positions of the Devourer forces. "We've been tracking these machines for 23 years, ever since they destroyed the Kepler colony. That was one of our first settlements outside the Sol system. 3,000 people died before we even knew what was happening." Daeho felt a chill run down his spine. "The Devourers attacked human settlements. But your people are not even members of the Galactic Council. Why would they target you?" "Because they don't care about politics," Jiwoo replied. "They eat everything that lives and learns. Your people, our people, it's all the same to them. The only difference is that the galaxy tried to protect itself by building bigger weapons and stronger shields. We protected ourselves by learning to hide." So Min pulled up data files on her station. "I've been analyzing your ships since you arrived. The materials you use are incredibly basic. Steel, aluminum, simple ceramics. Your computers run on binary code instead of quantum processing. Your weapons fire physical projectiles instead of energy beams. By any measure, your technology is primitive." "Primitive, but invisible," Dr. Hyun-soo said with pride. "The Devourers spent centuries adapting to fight advanced civilizations. They learned to detect quantum signatures, energy fields, and exotic materials. But they never learned to look for the simple things, because no advanced species uses simple things anymore." He pulled out a small device from his bag and set it on the table. It looked like it had been built in someone's workshop, with exposed wires and rough metal edges. "This is a Devourer communication interceptor. It cost us about 50 credits to build and works better than devices that cost your people millions." Tae-jun leaned forward to examine the device. "How is that possible?" "Because we didn't try to make it perfect," Commander In-ha explained. We made it good enough. The Devourers expect perfect signals with no interference. This device introduces small errors and static that makes our communications look like natural space noise to them. Daeho was beginning to understand. You've been hiding from them for 20 years, learning their weaknesses. Exactly, Jiwoo nodded. While the galaxy tried to outfight them, we learned to outthink them. The Devourers are smart, but they're machines. They think in patterns. Once you understand the patterns, you can predict what they'll do next. So-Min brought up a holographic display of the planet. The red areas were larger now, covering almost a quarter of the surface. Even if you can hide from them, how does that help us? They're already on our world, and in 36 hours they'll overwhelm our defenses completely. Dr. Hyun-soo grinned and pulled out another device, this one looking even more crude than the first. With this, we call it a logic bomb. It's a computer virus designed specifically for Devourer networks. A virus? So-Min looked skeptical. The Devourers have the most advanced cybersecurity in the galaxy. Their systems are quantum encrypted and self-repairing. How could a simple virus affect them? Because it's not a simple virus, Hyun-soo explained. It's a stupid virus. Instead of trying to break through their security, it pretends to be a damaged Devourer unit requesting repair instructions. Their own repair protocols let it into the network, and once it's inside, it starts giving contradictory orders to different units. Commander Inha pulled up tactical maps on her tablet. We've tested this on smaller Devourer groups. The virus makes them argue with each other about priorities. Some units think they should attack, others think they should defend, and still others think they should retreat. While they're arguing, they stop advancing. But that's only temporary, Daeho pointed out. Eventually, they'll identify the virus and purge it from their systems. True, Jiwoo agreed. But it gives us time, and time is what we need. While they're confused, we can evacuate more people or set up new defenses. Every hour we buy saves lives. So-Min was studying the human devices with growing amazement. Your entire approach is backwards from how we've been thinking. We tried to build better defenses, but you built sneakier attacks. We tried to make perfect weapons, but you made effective ones. Perfection is the enemy of good enough, Dr. Hyun-soo said. We learned that lesson on Earth thousands of years ago. Sometimes the best solution is the one that works right now, not the one that might work perfectly in the future. Tae-jun looked up from his communications panel. Sir, I'm getting reports from across the planet. The Devourer advance has slowed in several sectors. Some units seem to be moving in circles. Commander Inha checked her tablet and smiled. The virus is already working. We released it into their network as soon as we entered the system. Their command structure is starting to break down. Daeho felt hope stir in his chest for the first time in months. How long will the confusion last? Maybe 12 hours, Jiwoo replied. After that, they'll adapt and become immune to this particular virus. But 12 hours is enough time to begin the real plan. Which is? So-Min asked. Dr. Hyun-soo and Commander Inha exchanged glances. We're going to teach your ships to disappear, Hyun-soo said. Then we're going to sneak a bigger virus directly into their main command node. Our ships can't disappear, Tae-jun protested. They're made of quantum alloys and run on antimatter. The Devourers can detect them from across the system. Not if we modify them, Commander Inha replied. We brought materials and equipment to retrofit your vessels with stealth systems. It won't be pretty and it won't be permanent, but it will work long enough for one critical mission. So-Min was already bringing up ship schematics on her screens. Show me what you need. If there's any chance this can work, we have to try. As the humans began explaining their modifications, Daeho found himself impressed by their thinking. They didn't try to solve problems by making everything more complex. Instead, they found simple solutions that worked within the limits they faced. It was an entirely different way of approaching challenges. Admiral, Jiwoo said quietly as the technical discussions continued around them. I need you to understand something. This plan is dangerous. We might lose ships and we might lose people, but if we don't try, you lose everything for certain. Deho looked out the window at his dying world, then back at the human captain who had traveled across the galaxy to help strangers. Captain, for the first time in months, my people have hope. Whatever the risks, that alone makes this worthwhile. Outside, the red dots had stopped spreading. For the first time since the siege began, the Devourers were not advancing. It was only temporary, but it was a start. The modified ships looked strange floating in space above Korathan Prime. The sleek Korathi vessels now had thick plates of human steel welded to their hulls. Human communication devices stuck out like metal spines from their smooth surfaces. Ancient radio antennas replaced elegant quantum transmitters. The beautiful ships had been turned into ugly, practical war machines. So-Min stood next to Dr. Hyun-Soo in the command center, watching the final preparations. "I still can't believe this is working," she said. "We've spent 12 hours making our ships worse, and somehow that makes them better." Hyun-Soo smiled as he adjusted a control panel that looked like it belonged in a museum. "Sometimes worse is exactly what you need. Your ships were so advanced that the Devourers could track them across half the galaxy. Now they're just noisy enough and crude enough to blend into background static." On the main screen, Commander In-Ha's voice crackled through the modified communication system. She was leading a squadron of 12 hybrid fighters, half human and half Korathi. The original plan had called for 20 ships, but 8 had been too damaged by the retrofitting process to fly safely. "All units, this is Strike Leader In-Ha. Sound off for final systems check." One by one, the pilots reported in. Tai-Jun coordinated the communications from his station, switching between human radio frequencies and Korathi quantum channels as needed. The mixed signals created exactly the kind of electronic noise that the Devourers had learned to ignore. Deho studied the tactical display. The enemy's main command ship hung in orbit on the far side of the planet, a massive black structure that pulsed with dark energy. Smaller Devourer vessels swarmed around it like insects around a hive. Getting close to that ship would normally be impossible, but the humans had found a path. The virus upload has to happen from inside their defensive perimeter, Captain Jiwoo explained from her position at the communications console. "Our stealth technology will get you close, but the final approach has to be done manually. The command ship's sensors are too sophisticated to fool at close range." "How close is close?" Deho asked. "Within 50 meters, Dr. Hyun-Soo replied, grimly. "Someone has to physically connect our device to their hull and activate the upload sequence. The process takes 3 minutes. 3 minutes next to a Devourer command ship was like 3 hours in hell. The ship's defensive systems would detect the intruder and respond with overwhelming force. Whoever made that final approach probably wouldn't survive to see the mission succeed." "I'll do it," Deho said quietly. "No, sir," Taejun interrupted. "You're needed here to coordinate the evacuation. I should go. I know the communication systems better than anyone." "The upload requires precise timing," So-Min added. "I should be the one. I designed half the virus code myself." Captain Jiwoo held up her hand to stop the argument. "With respect to all of you, this was our plan from the beginning. Commander In-Ha and I will handle the final approach. Our ship has the best stealth systems, and we know the Devourer response patterns better than anyone." Before anyone could protest, alarms began sounding throughout the command center. On the tactical display, red warning lights showed Devourer forces moving toward their position. The confusion virus was wearing off, and the enemy was beginning to organize again. "All units, begin attack run," Commander In-Ha ordered over the communications channel. "Remember, stay in formation and trust your stealth systems. If the Devourers can't see you, they can't hurt you." The hybrid squadron moved out from behind the planet's moon, flying in loose formation toward the enemy fleet. On the sensors, they appeared as nothing more than space debris drifting with the solar wind. The Devourer patrol ships passed right through their formation without noticing. Taijun coordinated the approach from his station, his hands dancing over controls that switched between human and Karathi systems every few seconds. Strike leader, you have clear approach to target. Enemy patrols are moving away from your position. Understood, control. Beginning final approach in 30 seconds. Dae-ho watched the main screen with growing tension. Two ships had separated from the main formation. Captain Ji-woo's vessel and Commander In-ha's fighter. They moved slowly toward the massive command ship, their stealth systems hiding them from the sophisticated sensors that surrounded their target. Stealth is holding, So-min reported from her station. Enemy sensors are not detecting the approach vessels. The two human ships disappeared from the main display as they entered the Devourer defensive perimeter. For several minutes, there was no word from them. The command center held its breath, waiting for news that would determine the fate of an entire world. Then Taijun's station exploded with activity. Multiple contacts, enemy reinforcements jumping into the system. On the tactical display, new red dots appeared everywhere. Dozens of Devourer ships materialized from jump space, surrounding the planet with overwhelming force. The original enemy fleet had been calling for help while pretending to be confused by the virus. It was a trap, Dr. Hyun-soo said with quiet amazement. They knew we were here all along. They were just waiting for us to reveal our full capabilities. All ships, this is Strike Leader In-ha, came the crackling voice over the communication system. We are in position at the target, but enemy forces are moving to intercept. Beginning upload sequence now. Admiral Dae-ho made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. All remaining ships engage the enemy fleet. Keep them away from the command ship at all costs. The hybrid squadron turned to face odds of 10-1. Karathi precision weapons fired alongside human kinetic projectiles. Energy shields flickered and failed under overwhelming enemy fire. One by one, the brave ships that had volunteered for this desperate mission began to fall. Upload at 60%, Captain Ji-woo's voice reported through heavy static. Taking fire from defensive systems, hull integrity failing. On the main screen, explosions bloomed like deadly flowers around the Devourer command ship. The humans had gotten closer than anyone thought possible, but the enemy's final defenses were beyond anything their stealth could overcome. Upload at 90%, Commander In-ha reported. Her voice was calm despite the chaos around her. Minor systems failure. Estimate 30 seconds to completion. Enemy forces converging on your position. Tae-jun warned. You need to get out of there now. Negative, control. We finished the mission. Those were the last words anyone heard from Commander In-ha. Her ship vanished in a brilliant explosion as the Devourer command vessel's main weapon found its target. Captain Ji-woo's vessel lasted a few seconds longer before it too was consumed by enemy fire. But in those final moments, something wonderful happened. The virus upload completed successfully, and the effect was immediate. Across the entire Devourer fleet, ships began turning on each other. Command signals crossed and contradicted each other. Some vessels fired on their own allies, while others simply stopped moving altogether. It's working! So-min shouted over the noise of battle. The virus is spreading through their entire network. The massive command ship that had seemed so invincible, moments before now drifted helplessly in space. Its weapons fell silent, its engines shut down, and its communication arrays went dark. Around it, the enemy fleet dissolved into chaos as ship after ship fell victim to the spreading confusion. Dae-ho watched the enemy's defeat with mixed emotions. They had won an impossible victory, but the cost had been terrible. Good people had died to make this moment possible, and their sacrifice would never be forgotten. All ships, return to base, he ordered. Begin immediate evacuation of remaining population centers. We may have stopped this fleet, but there will be others. As the surviving ships limped back toward the planet, Tae-jun received a transmission. That made him sit up straight in surprise. Sir, I'm getting a signal from Captain Ji-woo. She's alive. On the main screen, a small escape pod appeared, broadcasting a weak distress signal. Captain Jiwoo had somehow managed to escape her ship's destruction and was drifting in the debris field around the silent command vessel. "Get a rescue ship out there immediately," Daeho ordered. "That woman saved our world. The least we can do is save her life." As rescue ships raced toward the pod, Daeho realized that everything had changed. The humans had shown them a new way to fight, a new way to think, and most importantly, a new way to hope. The galaxy would never be the same. 3 months after the battle for Corathan Prime, Admiral Daeho stood in the same command center where he had once watched his world die. Now, through the tall windows, he could see something he had never expected to witness. His planet coming back to life. Construction crews worked day and night to rebuild the cities that the Devourers had damaged. But these were not the same elegant structures that had existed before. The new buildings mixed Karathi design with human practicality. They were stronger, simpler, and built to last. Most importantly, they were built to be invisible to the sensors that the Devourers used to hunt for victims. Captain Jiwoo entered the command center, walking with a slight limp from her injuries but otherwise healthy. She carried a data tablet filled with reports from across the galaxy. The news was better than anyone had dared to hope. "The virus worked better than we expected," she said, setting the tablet on Daeho's desk. 17 Devourer fleets have been neutralized in the last month. The Zenthari Federation is requesting our help to clear their border systems. Even the Crystalline Collective wants to learn about our stealth technology. Daeho smiled as he read through the reports. The same species that had abandoned Corathan Prime in its darkest hour were now begging for the help that humans had provided freely. "What does Earth's government say about all this attention?" "They're being careful," Jiwoo replied. "My people don't trust easy friendships after being ignored for so long. But they're willing to share our anti-devourer technology with anyone who needs it. Some things are more important than politics." Through the window, Daeho could see ships landing at the spaceport below. Half of them were Karathi vessels bringing back refugees who had fled during the siege. The other half were human ships bringing supplies, equipment, and volunteers to help with the rebuilding effort. The two species were learning to work together in ways that surprised everyone. So Min hurried into the command center, her arms full of data tablets and her face bright with excitement. Over the past 3 months, she had spent more time working with human scientists than with her own people. The collaboration had produced remarkable results. "The new scanner array is working perfectly," she announced, setting her tablets down, next to Jiwoo's. "We can now detect Devourer scouts from 3 star systems away, and the early warning network that Dr. Hyun-soo designed has prevented 6 sneak attacks in the past month." The early warning system was typically human in its approach. Instead of trying to build perfect sensors that could see everything, they had created simple, cheap devices that could be scattered throughout space like seeds. Each device was barely more sophisticated than an ancient radio, but together they formed a web that could track enemy movements across entire sectors. "Any word from Dr. Hyun-soo?" Daeho asked. "He's on his way back from the Aquilan Republic," So-min replied. "They wanted him to design countermeasures for a new type of devourer that's been appearing in their territory. He says the work is challenging but exciting." Taejun looked up from his communications station, where he was coordinating with ships across the system. His job had become much more complex in the months since the battle. Instead of just talking to Karathi vessels, he now managed communications with human ships, refugee transports, and supply convoys from a dozen different species. "Sir, I have the monthly status report from the Galactic Council," he said, his voice carefully neutral. Daeho took the report and read it with amusement. 3 months ago, the Council had written off Corathan Prime as a lost cause. Now they were demanding detailed briefings on human anti-devourer technology and requesting immediate assistance for their own threatened worlds. "They want to set up a joint research facility," Daeho summarized. Shared costs, shared benefits, and shared credit for any discoveries. Very generous of them. Jiwoo's expression darkened. They also want to take control of the human fleet and integrate our ships into their command structure. For efficiency, they say. What did you tell them? I told them that our ships work best when they're commanded by people who understand why we came here in the first place. Jiwoo replied firmly. We didn't travel across the galaxy to become someone else's private army. The conversation was interrupted by an alert from Taijun's station. Sir, we have visitors requesting permission to dock. It's a Zenthari diplomatic vessel. Are they expected? Daeho asked. No, sir. They say they have an urgent message from their government. Daeho sighed. Ever since the victory at Korathan Prime, his world had become a popular destination for diplomats and politicians. Everyone wanted to be associated with the species that had found a way to defeat the Devourers. Few of them seemed to understand that the victory had come from cooperation, not conquest. Let them dock, he decided. But keep the meeting short. We have real work to do. 20 minutes later, a Zenthari ambassador entered the command center, with all the pomp and ceremony that his species loved. He was tall and elegant, with flowing robes and jeweled accessories that marked his high rank. Behind him came a small army of assistants and advisors, all looking very important and official. Admiral Daeho, the ambassador began in the formal tone that diplomats used when they wanted to sound impressive. I bring greetings from the Zenthari Federation and an offer of alliance that will benefit both our peoples. What kind of alliance? Daeho asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. Full membership in the Federation, with all the privileges and responsibilities that entails. In exchange, we ask only that you share your anti-devourer technology and place your defensive fleets under Federation command. Together, we can rid the galaxy of this mechanical plague once and for all. Jiwoo stepped forward before Daeho could respond. Ambassador, with respect, we've already offered to share our technology with anyone who needs it. We don't require political alliances or military integration to help people fight the Devourers. The ambassador looked confused, as if the concept of help without strings attached was foreign to him. But surely you understand the benefits of formal cooperation, shared resources, coordinated strategies, unified command structures. We understand them perfectly, So-min interjected. We also understand that the last time we relied on formal alliances and unified command structures, we were abandoned when things got difficult. The ambassador's expression hardened. The situation has changed. The Federation is committed to supporting its allies against all threats. Where was that commitment 3 months ago? Taejun asked quietly. The question hung in the air like an accusation. The ambassador and his assistants exchanged uncomfortable glances, clearly remembering their species' decision to abandon Korathan Prime to its fate. Daeho decided to end the uncomfortable silence. Ambassador, we appreciate the Federation's offer, but we must decline. We've learned that the best alliances are built on shared values, not shared benefits. If your people want to work with us against the Devourers, they're welcome to do so. But it will be as equals, not as commanders and subordinates. The ambassador left soon after, clearly disappointed but not entirely surprised. Similar scenes had played out with representatives from every major species in the galaxy. They all wanted the humans' help, but few were willing to accept the humans' terms. As evening fell over Korathan Prime, Daeho stood once again at the tall windows of the command center. The lights of the rebuilt cities twinkled below, and in the harbor, human and Korathi ships sat side by side like old friends sharing stories. Do you think we're doing the right thing? He asked Jiwoo, who had stayed behind after the diplomatic meeting. The human captain considered the question carefully. I think we're doing the only thing that makes sense. The galaxy spent centuries trying to solve problems by building bigger weapons and forming stronger alliances. It didn't work. Maybe it's time to try something different. And what's that? Helping people because they need help, not because of what they can give you in return. Fighting together because it's right, not because it's profitable. Building trust instead of treaties. Deho nodded, understanding. Simple principles for complex times. The best principles usually are simple, Ji-woo agreed. Outside, the stars began to appear in the darkening sky. Somewhere among those stars, devourer fleets still roamed and threatened innocent worlds. But now there was hope, spreading from system to system like ripples in a pond. Not because of superior technology or political alliances, but because a few people had decided that some things were worth fighting for, regardless of the cost. The galaxy was changing, one saved world at a time. And at the center of that change were two species who had learned that the greatest strength came not from the power to destroy, but from the courage to help others when they needed it most. Taejun's voice broke the peaceful silence. Sir, incoming message from the outer system. It's Dr. Hyun-soo requesting permission to dock. He says he has something exciting to show us. Daeho smiled. With humans around, there was always something exciting happening. Permission granted. And Taejun? Yes, sir. Send a message to all the refugee ships that are still out there. Tell them it's safe to come home. As the message went out across the galaxy, carried by the simple radio waves that had started it all,